Your daughter isn't living on the moon. She's here in Bromley too.
Yes, and I'm the one who got the girl turned out for the job at Millwoods, and I'm supposed to be engaged to Gerald. And I'm not a child, you know. I have the right to know. Were you in love with her, Gerald?
It's hard to say, really. I didn't have feelings for her, she had feelings for me.
Oh, of course not. You were the wonderful fairy prince. You must have adored her, Gerald.
Well, I did for a time. Nearly any man would have done.
That's about the best thing you've said all night. At least it was honest. Did you see her every night?
No, I wasn't telling you a complete lie when I said I was very busy at the works. We were very busy, but I did see a good deal of her.
I don't think we want any further details of this disgusting affair.
So our first theme was about males. We chose a part where the entire Burling family was around like a table, and Gerald had to confess to Sheila about him cheating. But he used a quote to cover it up.
So the quote that he used was, nearly any man would have done, which suggests?
It suggests that men back in the early 20th century like covered things up, and Priestley was trying to show like how bad the upper classes were for doing this, because it's like Sybil Burling says that, oh yeah, Alderman McGarty, he can't be doing bad things, he has a title, but this isn't the case, so we learn this now, and the audience reflects on this.
I'd be glad if you'd let me go.
Go where? Home?
I'll just go out, walk around for a while. If you don't mind, I'll come back.
Alright, Mr. Croft.
But just in case you forget to come back, or decide not to come, Gerald, I think you'd better take us with you.
Well, I see. I was expecting this.
I don't dislike you as I did half an hour ago. In fact, in some odd way, I rather respect you more than I've ever done before.
So our second theme was about power and responsibility. So we chose a scene where Sheila hands back the ring to show how her power progresses throughout the play.
So it starts off with Gerald wanting to leave the house at the moment to go for a walk, and Sheila shows her power by handing over the ring, saying, which like shows her how she's able to stand up to Gerald and stand up to the gender.
When I think of what I was feeling when the five of us sat down to dinner at that table.
Yes, you told us that a man had to make his own way, take care of himself, and mind his own business.
Is that what you expected him? Just like your father had said that?
Yes, what of it?
Now what's the matter, Sheila?
It's queer, very queer.
I know what you're going to say because I've been wondering myself.
It doesn't matter much anymore, of course, but was he really a police inspector?
Don't be childish, Sheila.
I'm not being. If you want to know, it's you two are being childish, not wanting to face the facts.
In the first scene, Burling states his dominance and hierarchy as taking pride in describing his sit-down with the younger men, Eric and Gerald, and his perspective on that is very good. However, Eric, who represents the young generation, imminently interrupts Burling's good memory of the sit-down and brings up how Burling was talking about cranks, and then sarcastically answers his own question about, do you remember? And then he replies, yes. And he says one of those cranks, the inspector, walks straight in, which also shows the younger generation and their hierarchy. And Burling has no response to this as Eric has completely shut him down.
What did this girl look like?
If you come over here, I'll show you.
What's the matter with her?
She recognized the photograph, didn't she?
Yes.
Why the devil would you go around upsetting a girl like that?
I didn't do it. She's upsetting herself.
Well, why? Why?
I don't know yet. That's something I have to find out.
Performance is based off the ideas of female characters in the play. We have chosen our scene because of Sheila and her featuring in this. The role of Sheila in the perspectives of the male character is somewhat stereotypical. Sheila is portrayed by Priestley as young and naive. The male characters are portrayed as believing that Sheila is just a child, and if in the presence of suffering or dismay, she needs to be protected or consoled. By stage direction, she gives a stifled sob and a little cry, showing her emotions on the surface, and her behaviors are quite visible and see-through. The moment of Sheila's stereotypical young female persona comes in contrast to Sheila's presence later on in the play, which is opposite of the stereotypical and young female persona, and her gender role is equal to the male's.
That's the best thing you've said all night. At least it was honest. Did you see her every night?
No, I wasn't telling you a complete lie when I said, oh, we were very busy at the works. But I did see a good deal of her.
I don't think we want any further details about this discussion.
I do.
And anyhow, we haven't had any details yet.
And you're not going to. You know, it wasn't disgusting.
It's disgusting to me.
Our second performance was based off morality. When discussing morality, we have our play centers, our performance centers, Gerald, who comes into questions in the terms of his honesty, his loyalty, and when discussing his fair and vindictive nature when Eva Smith is being used as an item. A key point of his nature portrayal can be seen as when he says it wasn't disgusting as a retort to Mrs. Burling's, as it highlights the idea of how shallow Gerald's morals are, also arguably how middle-aged capitalistic characters are portrayed.
But that's the point. I don't want to lecture you youngsters. But what so many of you seem not to understand is when things are so much easier is that a man has to look out for himself and for his family too, of course. And as so long as he does, he won't come to much harm. But the way these cranks speak and write, it seems that everyone should look after everyone else, like a beehive, community and all this nonsense. But take my word, young fellows, from my good heart school of experience, a man has to mind his own business and look after himself.
The monologue that represents the older generations is the following. This is the point. I don't want to lecture you two young fellows again, but what so many of you don't seem to understand now, when things are so much easier, is that a man has to make his own way, has to look after himself, and his family too, of course, when he has one, and so long as he does that, he won't come to much harm. The way some of these cranks talk right now, we think everybody has to look after everybody else, as if we were all mixed up together like bees in a hive, community and all that nonsense. But take my word for it, you youngsters. I've learnt in the good hard school experience that a man has to mind his own business and look after himself and his own.
We chose this monologue because it shows the capitalist views of the older generation, represented by himself, Mr. Burling. It also shows the arrogance and selfishness of the older generation's ideology, which is different to those of the younger generation.
Firstly, Mr. Burling teaches the young fellows that a man has to make his own way, has to look after himself, which portrays him as a selfish and arrogant human being. Mr. Burling also believes that the different classes should not mix. He says, as if we were all mixed up together like bees in a hive, community and all that nonsense. This shows that the capitalist views of the older generations, which contrasts with the younger generations.
But just remember this, one Eva Smith is gone, but there are still millions and millions of Eva Smiths and John Smiths still left with us, with their lives, their hopes and fears, their suffering, and a chance of happiness, all intertwined with our lives and what we say and do. We don't live alone. We are members of the same body. And I tell you that the time will soon come when if men will not learn that lesson, then they will be taught it in blood and fire and anguish. Good night.
The inspector's leaving monologue to portray collective responsibility in an inspector calls, and the inspector portrays his views in the monologue as he leaves the play, and he states that we are members of one body and that we are responsible for each other, and that suggests that the inspector believes strongly in socialist views where people should be there for one another. This monologue shows collective responsibility the best because it is quite plain, it is not hidden through literary devices, and it is presented straightforward to the audience.